Well, hello everyone, and we're back after taking almost a year off from the Feather Prime and Talk podcast. My apologies to all of our subscribers and followers that have been anxiously awaiting the return of the podcast. We're going to try and make this more regular. Just due to studio renovations, and we had to get some additional production staff and so on. It just that was, some of the delays. But welcome back. Making sure you guys still remember who we are. I'm Denis. I'm the executive director of the ATA. We've got Ferd from Niverville Auto Body, president of the ATA, and we've got Norm Bruneau from St. Cloud Auto Body and past president of the ATA. So today, hey, we've got the one main topic. We're going to be talking about rental cars and delays affecting the loss of use policy. What are the risks to shops on potential denials or in worse cases, potential recoveries? So that's what we're going to be talking about today. We've got the experts on hand to provide some insight and their experiences on this issue, and let's jump into it now. All right, so let's get started. And before we get to the main topic that we're going to discuss today, I just wanted to plug a couple of things. We've done a revamp on the ATA website and just want to make it your place to go for updates on any of the ATA events, golf tournament, President's Ball, trade show, youth events. The ATA surveys are there. The Manitoba Benchmark Report is there. So I just want to plug the website a little bit, give you access to all that information. And the big item is we have a claims issue link, and we're encouraging all the shops in Manitoba, all of our members, to use that to make us aware of issues they're having with claims, issues where they think that maybe the policy isn't being followed, or a recurring issue that they're having with maybe denials from MPI. We kind of want to gather all that data. We're feeding that to Trevor, who's kind of heading up a program right now to capture all this and give us not just anecdotal information or so and so said, but actually capture the data with claims numbers on some of these issues. So I want to encourage shops to do that. And again, that's on the website as well. So let's jump into our main topic of today. MPI launched in late February an NTT on delays affecting loss of use and the rental policy. And the discussion today is just how's that going to affect shops, and how do we minimize the risk of denials on rental cars, or worse yet, any recoveries you might get on overages for rental cars. So maybe I'll turn it over to Ferd, and you want to get us started on this.
Yeah, there's definitely been some buzz about this entity that's come about. Of course, recognizing that not every shop runs the same. MPI has laid out some structure as to what they're looking for repair facilities. They're talking about identifying reasons for additional loss of use requests from rental car companies when vehicles are being repaired at your repair facility. They're talking about shops and kind of suggesting that shops can do a few different things to possibly eliminate the need for them to come after shops and recover costs for rental cars that were shop delayed. And they've suggested that those reasons be supported properly. And how are we doing that? How are we justifying and supporting these reasons is the question of the day. Obviously, parts delays are an issue, bottlenecks in your procedures, different ways, types of things. So today, I think we just want to talk about how we can work or help shops along and try to help them figure out ways to, use MPI's job aid for one thing, maybe, and maybe set some different operating procedures in their shops to, kind of minimize the risk that a shop could create a delay. And maybe some ways that we can help shops to recognize that. So MPI did provide a best practices list for shops to kind of follow. Where and when should these best practices be used? And I'm not sure, Norm, like how you guys are doing it over there, but I'll tell you what we're doing to minimize some of our exposure is it's basically done at the beginning of the job, repair planning your job at the estimating stage or reassessment stage. If it's an MPI written estimate, we're trying to do the best job that we can to probably reduce the probability of running into delays when the car actually shows up to our shop for repairs. Um, what's involved there is proper disassembly, proper parts sourcing in advance. Um, but stuff still happens. Guys bring the car in, there's a broken part on removal, or the part may have some unique difference to what you actually need, and you need to return the part and order another part when the car is sitting in your possession. Um, there's always something that's going to affect a smooth transition from keys to keys when the car goes through your shop. Trying to eliminate that in advance is kind of one of the most important ways that shops can work through trying to minimize their exposure to extended loss of use requests. MPI is suggesting that drivable cars during the estimate procedure are made drivable through a process called temporary repairs. Temporary repairs have to be pre-approved by MPI, so let's not forget that. You need to get the proper approvals to put the car back on the road so the customer can drive the car while they're waiting for parts to arrive or scheduling to work out in their favor. But that's another administrative hoop that we need to jump through. So I want to make sure that shops understand that those pre-approvals are required, and not to go and buy that $2,000 headlight to make the car drivable while they're waiting for repair appointments. So factoring in all those types of things, communicating with your estimators and getting those pre-approvals are key and foremost. Cars that are coming into your shop and you're finding them to be marginal, not leaving them marginal, dismantled on your property while you're waiting for the estimating pod or the adjuster's pod to either approve or total loss the vehicle, and keeping the car in the customer in a rental car. MPI is suggesting that's probably not the best option. Temporary repairs, even for marginals, also need to be pre-approved. And if you're trying to keep that car drivable, but at the end of the day, what are all the shops doing out there, Norm? What are you seeing out there? Like,
Well, I think you hit the nail on the head with the repair planning. That's going to be your biggest friend here. I think gone are the days of, bringing in a vehicle on an O1, ordering parts on an O1. I mean, MPI already touched on that with restocking fees. That's just not going to fly anymore. So I think from a best practice standpoint, you're right. As much as the work that shops could do ahead of time is great. My beef with that, though, is the lack of recognition on MPI's end of the repair planning process and the estimating process when it's done in best practice at shops, right? We're not writing an estimate based on just visual external damage. We're taking things apart. Again, the expectation is that we make the vehicle drivable. That just doesn't happen, in a 45-minute inspection. That happens in a complete disassembly. And it should, because that's going to be your opportunity to capture some of that hidden damage and save some of that time further along in the repair process. So I think that, as I'm listening to you talk, it's like, yeah, I agree with what you're saying. I agree with what MPI is suggesting in practice, but when it's happening in the shop level, just the simple fact that you can't put someone in a rental or collect for loss of use during that repair planning or temporary repair process, I think that's a huge hurdle right there. And I think that that's an opportunity where if MPI recognized the value in doing that, it would save time further along in the repair process, right? So rather than telling shops, hey, you should disassemble vehicles, you should write a complete estimate, you should do temporary repairs and get vehicles back on the road, but we're not going to support you in doing that. I think that's where things have got to change. And I think that's where a lot of hurdles are for the shops. They're saying, well, what are we supposed to do? So now I'm expected to do all these things because you're not going to pay for the delay later on if I don't do them, but yet you're not going to pay to put someone in the car even if they have loss of use coverage. So I think that's where there's a little bit of a disconnect. Maybe this is a Norm problem, but I mean, talking to other
well,
shops, that's kind of what I'm seeing here is, hey, when this boils down to, okay, let's do it, there's a gap at the start of that process.
yeah, and I 100% agree with you. I mean, people are busy these days, and for somebody to take, a 2-3 hour window out of their day just to attend the shop to do a proper repair plan, reassessment on an estimate, it's an inconvenience for people that buy the coverage. I hear it all the time. Like, I got rental car coverage. Well, sorry, MPI doesn't pay for that day that your car is sitting here, so that you still can get to work. So it
Well,
Yeah,
is a
30-day
huge.
coverage, a 30-day coverage on your rental cars is not 30-day coverage.
it's
No, you're
not.
correct. It's not.
Yeah.
Yeah, and
So
that's my kind of what I was saying for it is, just to give a day-to-day example, right? You've got, Mrs. Smith that works at the bank in town. Hey, Mrs. Smith, we want to bring your vehicle in for a proper disassembly, write a proper estimate, and perform a temporary repair. Well, she's got work to go to, right? So yeah, we're gonna serve our customer correctly. We're gonna go maybe even pick up her vehicle, or maybe she's gonna drop it off. We're gonna put her in a rental for the day. Not going to rush our estimators and our people to do a proper, thorough job because we know that that will pay dividends at the end of the process because we captured that broken bracket. We captured these things at the start, right? So we know that there's savings built in. So we're going to do that. But now MPI is saying, yeah, great on you. Wow, you really took care of your customer there. That's fantastic. That must have hardly been an inconvenience. But we're not going to pay for that day rental, even though they have coverage. That doesn't make sense to me. And I don't think it makes sense to most shops. So I think that's a gap that's got to be addressed with MPI.
100%. So do you feel that that should be a cost of doing business, Norm? Providing
Well,
the customer with a rental car at your expense to do a proper estimate to save time at the back end?
yeah, exactly. That's the problem that I have. So then shops are turned off from doing that. They don't do it. And then when there's a delay further on in the process because a part wasn't ordered because it wasn't captured at the start, then we get pushback or that. So I get it when I hear from shops that, you're kind of you're damned if you do and you're damned if you don't. So it puts us in a tough position. Let's face it, there just isn't enough margin right now in our industry to be handing out rental cars for free just to benefit the insurance company at the end of the day. So I think
And
that's
courtesy cars. Don't forget the
yeah.
courtesy cars, Norm. We talked about
Yeah,
that
well,
in that
well,
previous
that's just
podcast.
it. But a lot of people have moved away from the courtesy cars and went to the rentals because of all this, right? So now you have the rental car companies fighting with MPI. And you've introduced someone else into the process. So now I'm not getting a call from MPI. I'm getting a call from the rental car provider saying, "Hey, what's going on with this car?" Then I'm going to tell them. Then they're going to turn around and tell MPI. And then in 2 days, they're going to call me back again. I'm going to answer the question the same way I answered it the first day because that part was a week away. And round we're going to go. So I don't know if what you're seeing in your area, Ferd, but I know for ourselves, we don't have courtesy cars anymore. We put everybody in rentals, and then there's a couple of shops that are doing the same thing. So I don't know.
There's a trend that we were made aware of the other day where some shops are saying, I'm not involved in the rental cars. I don't sell rental car insurance.
Yeah,
I don't own the rental cars. It has got nothing to do with my profit stream and my business. Why am I getting involved?
yeah,
Why am
they're
I
just putting their hands up.
substantiating? Yeah, why am
Yeah,
I substantiating the extra days? We communicate with our customer. We give them a lead time. Your car will be here approximately this amount of times based off the metrics in our industry. And stuff happens in the middle. We'll communicate with you. You go ahead and communicate with the rental car company, and you communicate with your adjuster. We're hands off. We do not provide the policy. We didn't write it. We didn't sell it to you. We don't need to be accountable to it.
Well,
yeah,
that's one of the problems I have with the job aid, and I think we should maybe look for a change in that job aid because in the last step of the job aid, if there's a delay, the repair shop decides whether to replace the customer in their own vehicle or cover costs going forward. And I don't think those should be the only two options. You know,
right.
yeah, the customer can pick up the cost. The customer can decide that, okay, I don't need a car for those last few days because we all know that there's many, many claims that the loss of use isn't covered till the end of that delivery date. And it shouldn't fall in the shops all the time to cover this cost. And I think that job aid is a little misleading in that those are the only options.
Yeah,
And some of the information that's been provided to me is the amount of days that shops are currently expected to cover. Because the customer comes back to the shop when they get a sub bill from the rental car company after the fact, and they're demanding that the shops pay for it because there's a delay. MPI doesn't want to pay for it. Well, who created that delay?
Hmm.
You've got X amount of days based on the formula on the claim. You've got X amount of days that they've allotted you for. You know, updating your statuses in Mitchell Cloud estimating is super, super important. Make sure that you're constantly updating your status of your vehicle, even though there's some gaps in there with the statuses that may not reflect truly on the MPI side. But the notes in Mitchell Connect can kind of help whoever's making that decision, whether they're going to extend those loss of use days, it'll help them decide whether it's approved or not. Now, if it's approved and you move on and everything's fine, but we're hearing that customers are still getting, invoices at the end for an extra day, extra two. You guys repaired our car. You guys are responsible for it. Well, no, we're not. And this is what we're telling our customers. We're not. We didn't sell you the coverage and we don't own
Mhm.
a rental car company. So if there's extra days, we've communicated with you and we've let you know that these are issues out of our hands, that parts were delayed due to weather. How many times have we heard that this winter, that the parts hadn't showed up at the dealership because there was a storm out west? So, those are things out of our consideration, but none of those approved delays are listed in either one of either one of the entities or the job aid that MPI created for us. It's like they have the power to decide. So we're kind of got our backs up against the wall when it comes to certain things. It's like, do you pay the customers you drive? I can tell you what we do. I'm honest and straightforward. If we created a delay and we made a mistake, yeah, I'll sometimes eat a day
Right.
or two because we
Yep,
created that.
for sure.
But we didn't have the accident. We didn't leave the car sitting in a compound for a couple of days, unestimated, or even up to a couple of weeks sometimes, which is burning away at the loss of use. We get the car. Sometimes half the policy's been consumed. And now,
Yeah.
how are we possibly? We're not. I know we're good, but we're not magicians. We're not going to snap our
Mm.
fingers and have that car repaired within some kind of a metrics that doesn't make sense.
Yeah.
Well,
There's
No,
lots.
one of the things I'm looking at is that MPI even says that they're going to be taking a more proactive approach to validate the rental duration. So they are going to be stepping up their game a little bit, and so when we look at, okay, what is a justified delay, and then how do we make sure that we're tracking things properly? And I think one of the conflicts I see in this is we know shops are, maybe gaming the system a little bit and they're holding a couple of supplements and they're going to wait till the end and make their cycle time look better. But doing that, helps your shop look better, makes your supplement ratio go down, helps your scorecard. But now it exposes you to risk for denials
Yeah.
on rental car delays because you've made the repair look shorter when in fact it wasn't. Am I capturing that correctly?
Well, I think the fact you're partially right. We were doing that as well a bit, especially on claims under EAL, submitting the claim at the end to avoid a supplement. But when you sit back and look at the actual cost on your monthly scorecard, what does it cost you to have one supplement or two on a claim? It's not weighted heavy enough to
Okay.
justify not doing it, in my personal opinion. So now we're doing
yep.
it, right? Because we need to have accurate data. I don't blame anybody at the other end for asking for accurate data because that helps them make decisions. So, are you saving that supplement to the end and, truly affecting your risk of getting an approval or denial in extra days? Or are you documenting, putting proper notes, moving your statuses, submitting those supplements so that everything is in live time?
Yeah.
Me personally, I mean, I feel that good data is accurate data. So if our staff are expected to put notes in the file to justify extension and loss of use, hey, you know what? We got this part. It showed up broken. We need to send it back, and it's a week away. Is that my fault? Probably not. I don't think it is. But the customer's car is here now, and it's dismantled, and we now have to wait for a headlight to put it on. A headlight is considered a safety item. I mean, in those situations, I would assume those extra days would be covered. But there's nothing there to suggest what would be considered a legitimate reason for extension of loss of use coverage.
Mm.
Well, I
So,
agree with you that accurate data is good data, but the other problem that I have that kind of, rolls out of this conversation is the statuses in Mitchell. Um, they do not reflect the real world repair process. How do you not have a reassembly stage? How's a vehicle go from paint to deliver? Right. And so if there is an expectation from MPI for shops to document the repair process accurately, then we need to have accurate stages for statuses in Mitchell. The other thing that burns me all the time is when I get docked points because one of my vehicles moved from body to paint within 20 minutes. And they said, well, that's not physically possible. There's 10 hours of repair on this. So they're willing to put in the work and dig that out, but yet there's no provisions in there for a shop to document if they've pre-painted a bumper. Because we'll take some of those
Mhm.
steps. We'll pre-paint parts off the vehicle. So then when the vehicle, but we're not allowed to document that in that status. So now the vehicle arrives, and of course it's going to skip through some of those stages, what would appear quickly, because those were already done before the vehicle got here. So now we're losing points for doing that. So what we're supposed to set an oven timer on our CSR's counter so that they don't change from status to status in the next 20 minutes. We've got better things to do. We've got other things to worry about than to satisfy that. If you want accurate data, give us accurate tools to measure it with. I don't understand why this hasn't been changed. It's been forever. We've been using Mitchell Connect. No statuses have not changed. And now MPI has gone and said, well, you know what? We're going to make those statuses visible to the customer. Well, hang on a second. Before we do that, let's fix the problem we always had, right? So now
Mhm.
we've got our customers with visibility on statuses that are not accurate. I told my customer I pre-painted their bumper, and yet the status that they are allowed to view of their repair does not reflect that. So I just personally I don't like that. I don't think it should be up to MPI or the statuses in Mitchell. Let us update our customers. And if we're not doing a good job of that and our customers aren't happy, they're going to let us know, or ultimately they're going to go somewhere else. That's just the way the world works. So we don't need
Mhm.
an extra layer of red tape inside a process that doesn't work in the first place. Now you're just amplifying the problem. So that's sorry, God, went down a little bit of a rabbit trail there, but I mean, like these repair statuses are that's tied back to the rental cars because now that's the first place they're going to look is okay, why did this take longer? Let's look at the repair statuses. If those don't make sense, then that's a problem right from the get-go.
So any
Mhm.
shop, you're 100% correct there, Norm. Any shop that is putting value to the metrics within their own business is using a management system. And I personally have never put much merit or value to repair statuses in Mitchell Cloud estimating.
Right.
Never, because I do my value stream mapping through my management system. I look at where my
Correct.
bottlenecks are. I know where I'm dogging. I got lags and in my admin time, car shows up for repairs and I measure how many days it takes to get it into the shop. None of that stuff is in Mitchell. So they're taking a metric. They're using a number. They're whether they're actually using it to measure our cycle times, but there's so many missing pieces in between. 100%. You can't run a business based on those statuses. So if they want to compare that or use that as a reference for gauging us for rental car delays, yeah, you know what? You guys created a delay because it sat in body for way too long and then it went to paint. Or it was in paint too quickly. Maybe you guys don't justify the extra time in between. It doesn't, there's not enough information in there for anybody that looks at it to recognize an issue or even better, recognize super performers.
Well, you're right. Not to get too much down a rant here, but wouldn't it be nice if you could build credits in rental days, right? Because the example I just gave of pre-painting that bumper. So by the book, if it's only a bumper repair, that's a 3-day job, right? It's got to come
Mhm.
in, bumper's got to come off, it's got to be painted, dry time, reassembly, blah, blah, blah. It's all got to get done. So that's a 3-day job. If I pre-paint that bumper and I turn that 3-day job into a 1-day job and it only costs 1 day of rental, shouldn't I get a credit for two? Like, wouldn't that make
Oh, this is
sense?
the
We're
carbon credit program for rental car days.
well, I,
Yeah.
I just think if you want to incentivize the right behavior, you
Hmm.
need to make sure that that's captured. And I think that that's what's missing because if I take those 3 days and I'm free to move them around as I want as a shop, I would use 1 day to bring the vehicle in and take the bumper off, make sure there's no damage behind, put the customer back in it. I burnt up 1 day. Then I order the part, I pre-paint the bumper. I took great pictures when it came in. I mirror matched the part and now I painted it. So now the job comes in. So I've got 3 days that I could have used. I only used two, but now you're telling me I'm not allowed to use it for the one. It doesn't make sense to me. What are we after here? So
Mm.
I think that there needs to be more conversation around this. I think there's room for improvement.
Yeah, and
Well, I think
that's kind
that
of
go ahead, Ferd.
that's kind of the conversations that I've heard from a couple shop owners is like, why are we, um, what are we doing here? Like, we don't understand the entity clearly enough to understand what they're going after. And why are we being held accountable to something that is majority of the time out of our control? Granted that there is some shops that may benefit from um, some coaching, maybe a little bit of extra help on how to, figure out their systems in their shop. But there's a ton of shops in this province. Let's not discount the amount of shops in this province that run a pretty tight ship. And
Yeah,
that those 2 days that you just saved on rental cars is probably happening more often than you think. And a credit,
absolutely it is. It
yeah.
is. And
So, I
then,
mean, it seems always that there's some bad actors that create a need for something like this. And if that's the case, then they're rewriting standards again, or keeping everybody accountable to something when not everybody's the problem. Like, I'll honestly say I don't have a huge problem with overages and rental car denials, but it does happen from time to time.
yeah,
Can we do a better job here of putting notes in the file and doing different? Oh, 100%, absolutely. But it's still notes that somebody's reading that is trying to translate what I'm trying to say. And I can honestly say I probably can count on one hand in the last 3 years how many times an adjuster has called here to ask us what's with the delay. It's usually just a rental car company saying, oh, they denied these extra days. That's what we get. So there's a huge communication piece that hasn't been built properly, in my opinion, yet to justify that this is actually going to work. And, hopefully collectively as an industry, um, we can all work together and try to figure the system out and yeah, basically just avoid some more
Good.
bureaucratic administrative burdens on shops.
yeah,
Well, there's two things are
exactly.
important here as we wrap up because we're getting a lot long on time. I think one of the messages is just trying to encourage our members to reduce their risk and what can we do to keep the risk of these clawbacks or denials down. But the other side, I think, is really important for our members to know is this Feather Prime and Talk. This isn't just a bitch session for the three of us to talk about how unhappy we are with rental car days. We do take these issues forward, and the things you're hearing on this podcast today are discussed at the Parts and Tech Committee or Programs and Accreditation Committee, and we do hope to resolve some of these issues that we're talking about today. Would that be a fair statement? You guys sit on the committees as well, so.
Yeah, you're
100%.
100% right. And we always want to put our best foot forward when we're speaking for the industry. I think that's what's great about this podcast is I think where we can give a little bit of insight as to, we're shop owners ourselves, right? We run across this stuff all the time, day to day. And we hear from other shops. We're having, conversations all the time. So, I'll speak for Ferd and I and say that, yeah, when we bring our, these are the types of conversations we're having. We're not looking to, be adversarial when we're talking with MPI, but we're also not trying to skirt the truth here. We want to, make sure that MPI understands how this is affecting shops on the day-to-day level. So we always want to speak with the interest of the trade at heart.
Good point,
All
Norm.
right, so let's wrap things up, I think, and you know, as I said at the beginning of the podcast, apologize for the delay. We haven't had a podcast in boy, it's been almost a year. We're going to
Yeah,
try and do a better job of making these a little bit more regular and get the information, out to you guys a little bit, maybe at least once a quarter. We don't want to go a year anymore. And lastly, before we wrap up, I just remind everybody we're doing the president. It's going to date the podcast, but we're doing a President's Ball on Saturday, and looking forward to
right.
seeing everybody there. Recognizing our three inductees into our Hall of Fame this year, which are Leonard Funk, Murray Hawkes, and Teresa Jacknicki. So I will
Wow,
see you
nice.
gentlemen there, and until the next podcast, we'll see you all later.
Take care.